Well, hello, everybody. How is everybody this evening, wherever you may be? Of course, it's 9 p.m. Eastern here in Clearwater Beach, Florida. But wherever you are, it may be a different time. Of course, we have viewers and listeners all over the world, both northern and southern hemisphere, where it's getting to winter. And also in the eastern and western hemispheres, where in the eastern hemisphere, it's already Tuesday. I have a fantastic show. I wish I could tell you, you'll hear about it Friday, but wow, today was a wild day in discovering some facts about a disappearances that you're going to hear about Friday. It was a wild day. And of course, I'll tell you a little bit about it before we finish tonight, but I'm going to leave the multitude of the craziness to Friday's episode. Even I, as I told the guest, even I find this crazy after 10 years of doing disappearances. And yes, this is a continuance of Unfound's journey back to the 80s, to the Atlantic coast of Florida, and looking at disappearances that happened in that area, of course, mainly offshore of Florida. And I did an interview today, and like I said, some things that were discussed during the interview, and then some things I discovered after the interview. Crazy. But regarding tonight, I have a fantastic show lined up for you. Did my work today. Really had nothing prepared today until today started. Had to get other things out of the way. Going to the gym, did my singing, did my working out and everything. And then I got to work on tonight's show. And I have a lot to tell you about tonight. As you are watching or just listening, that's fine too. You do not have to see my face on screen. That's fine. As you are watching or listening, you can support Unfound a multitude of ways. Of course, patreon.com/Unfound podcast. You can hit the super chat button, as my nephew Charlie has already done in the chat. You can do that over there. There's a button over there, mostly on your devices, not all devices, but mostly in most apps on most devices. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube tonight, you can hit the join button below. You can get some things there that other people do not get by hitting the join button, and some things early. And then also paypal.me/Unfound podcast. And then also, maybe you don't need it, but maybe you know somebody that does. You can go to, of course, this new venture I'm on right now. It's right there on the screen. Do you need help? missingpersonsconsulting.com. So there's a variety of ways. And while you are watching/listening tonight, you can support what we do here by hitting the thumbs up button. Please give this show a like. And then if you're just finding this YouTube channel for the first time, you can hit the subscribe button down there in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And so do that. Of course, we are on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We are on Facebook, both the Unfound discussion group and the page. Go check that out. Go join, go like, go share. I would appreciate all of it. Of course, there's the website, theunfoundpodcast.com, where I post all of the episodes, but you get some of the media stuff there too. For example, any newspaper clippings that I do from newspapers.com, I post those there. Additional pictures, maps. For example, this past Friday, of course, Dallin has done her own video series on her father's disappearance. I posted a link to that on the website, so you can check all of that out. It's like a one-stop shop for any disappearance you want to know about that Unfound is covered. Because on any particular page for that disappearance that has been on Unfound, you get everything. You get the episode, you get any newspapers articles. If I've done any additional pictures, any maps, if I've done a map video, it's all right there on one page. If you go to theunfoundpodcast.com, and you can do a search for any episode that has ever been done on Unfound. And I really like the website these days. There was a time when the website was not good. It is good now. So please go there, check it out. So as you can see up there for the title of this Unfound Live for June 8th of 2026, the three top right there along the title, those three topics will definitely be covered before we are done tonight. That would be the disappearance of Sherri Holland. This is another good example of a disappearance that I don't think has ever been featured on any podcast, YouTube channel, anywhere. Just like some of the ones that have been featured on the Atlantic series so far. But it is a stumper. Some contradictory facts regarding the disappearance of Sherri Holland. And you get the idea that Sherri Holland was a bit of a character. So I'm going to do my best to look at her disappearance tonight, handle it as if it were a consultation situation. And coincidentally, it is, I guess, a Florida disappearance. And maybe it is just related to one of the Atlantic series disappearances, but I'll get to that eventually. Sherri Holland, she is on the Charlie Project. She is on NamUs, and I should state, I have tried to contact her family in the past. No luck yet. I also want to go over the Japan case. This is, of course, this young man who went with his family to Japan, went missing, and very sadly, within the last few days, he has been found deceased. So I'm going to take a look at that. And then also, Jody Huisentruit's disappearance has gotten national news again. And I'm here, as is usually the situation, to keep it all in perspective. So we will get to Sherri Holland, the Japan case, and Huisentruit news before I am done an hour and 52 minutes from now. But there's other stuff. But first, as you know, what do I usually do? I usually go through the week that was a week in my life. And so allow me to tell you a little bit about that. In fact, I even have a story from like an hour ago that I want to include. Charlie, and you have to work tonight. Thank you. You are very generous, nephew Charlie. Thank you so much. Hello, D. What's going on? Glenn, good to see you. Is it hot in Oklahoma, D? Sorry to hear that. Hello, LaFord. Amy, fishing checking in. Joyce Rivatuzo, former guest of Unfound. Hello, Joyce. How are you doing tonight? Good to see you. We haven't talked in a while, Joyce. Hello, Lisa. Good evening, everybody. My AC is out. Your AC is out. Well, what happened, Lisa? Just, it's so weird. AC goes out just as summer gets there, right? Sorry to hear that, Lisa. You have a nice walk. Hello from PA. It's cooler here than it has been. Okay, Lori. Of course, growing up in Pennsylvania, you get into June. Certainly during the day, it can get warm, but at night, it really does cool off, even in June. My recollection of living there for almost 28 years, it's hard to believe that I've spent half of my life living outside of Pennsylvania. I'm 55. I lived in Pennsylvania, went to school in Pennsylvania for about 27 years and about 9 months. So we're slowly, very surely, before the end of this year, I will have lived as much time outside of Pennsylvania as in Pennsylvania. And if you don't know, I'm originally, maybe you're like, well, what are you talking about, Ed? I grew up in, I was born in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. I grew up in Leechburg, Pennsylvania, went to Leechburg High School, class of 89. Technically, I lived in Gilpin Township, which is north of Leechburg. And then on May 10th of 1998, I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada. I drove there, got there on the evening of the 12th. And so since May 10th, I have not lived in Pennsylvania. It's been a combination of Las Vegas, Nevada, Madeira Beach, Florida, and then Clearwater Beach, Florida, if you are wondering. So I know a little bit about Pennsylvania and snow and everything. I know a little bit about 110-degree heat with no humidity in Vegas. Of course, it does snow in Vegas. It gets down into the 20s. And now I know all about, it's being kind of the same weather all year round here on the Gulf Coast of Florida, if you were wondering. Joyce, I'm doing well. Love your hair. Well, it loves you, Joyce. My hair loves you. So I guess that all works out. Lisa, 21-year-old AC with a mangled blade. Oh, my. Repair guy said he's never seen that. Getting new unit on Wednesday. All right, well, stay cool, Lisa. Stay cool. Be cool. All right, so what has gone on since we all last got together? Trivia. My team came in third place last week. We did okay. Not the smoothest night, but we played our cards right, and we didn't get the final question, but hardly anybody did. So we came in third, and which is good. And we are fourth place overall pretty comfortably. We still have 2 weeks to go in the season. But I would say unless we really, really, really screw it up, we will be in the top 5 to go to the playoffs for this season. And in fact, I guess you could say we still even have a shot at first place. We're really not that far out of finishing first in the regular season. So we got 2 weeks. We still have a chance. One of those teams ahead of us blows it, and that's been known to happen. We got a shot. Did not go to trivia on Saturday. My teammates, 2 of them went to Indiana, so they weren't around. So we just decided to take the week off. I'm guessing we'll all get back together this Saturday. But of course, before that will be trivia on Wednesday evening. Moving on, some of you, hopefully many of you, I did a little car video. Maybe you caught it. Put it on the YouTube channel. I've been wanting to do that for a little while. Finally found some time on Saturday. Given that I didn't have to go to trivia, I had time on Saturday to do it. Or was it Saturday? Maybe it wasn't even Saturday. I forget now. Oh, my goodness. But I did a little car video where I talk about how I bought my car, and I thought that some of you would find it helpful. It's both a Mustang-centric, buying a Mustang kind of very central to buying what they call the S197 platform of Mustang, but also it can be applied to anybody that's going to be buying a used car. The video is a little long, but that's not unusual for me. But it's just me driving around. The camera is on me. If you've not seen it yet, it's just me driving around in my car. I pulled out of my place here, went south, drove the whole way down to what they call Paso Grill, the whole way down to the end of Gulf Boulevard, way down there, way past where I used to live. And just chugging along, not going fast at all. I got passed by so many cars. And then I got down there and then turned around and made my way back. And it's just me. You just see my body and my face. I'm shifting gears, just driving. minding my own business. And I had printed out an outline I have there, but I really didn't even have to use it that much. So if you're interested in that, if you're thinking about buying a used car and you're a little, I don't know, I get nervous about it. Through that video, I think I give you some good tips. And then specifically, if you are looking to buy like the kind of car that I got, an older Mustang, what they call the S197 platform, which is from 2005 to 2014. And then even more specifically, of the last 4 years, so 2011 to 2014, I think that you will find it very helpful. I go I go through my process of taking 2 months to buy the car. And I think I made a good purchase. And I'm hoping, if you're in the used car market, I'm hoping you can make a really good purchase. And having that confidence of being able to use some of the tools online, like Carfax, like Lemon Squad and things, I want you to have the confidence to use those services, even though they're going to cost you a little money. I think they're really going to help you, because I know they helped me. Let's see what everybody's saying here. A portrayal of vengeance. Oh my goodness. Can I ask a question that is true crime? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. As long as it's appropriate, a portrayal. I can't guarantee you, but sure. Type it out. Let's see what you got. Hello, Mary. What's going on with you? Good to see you. So that's the car video. I guess you could put it in the kind of category that I did with the cooking of the chicken wings that I did last year. And by the way, I haven't cooked chicken wings for quite a while, especially since I've been on this diet. And I'm down to like 166, 167. In fact, I think over the past week, I even got on the scale. I was 165.6 or something like that. Feeling fantastic, looking fantastic, eating right, although I did have a couple cupcakes today. So it's kind of in the vein of the chicken wings. Anybody wants to cook chicken wings? There's my recipe, how I do it. Anybody want to buy a used car? And anybody ready to buy a used car? There's another video. Once again, I know it's particular to me, but I'm hoping it helps all of you as well. D, did you do any digging on what we talked about? Not yet, D. Been a little busy, D. Been a little busy, especially considering the interview I did today. Do you think we'll ever find out who the Connecticut River Valley killer is? Will it officially be solved in our lifetime? I got to admit, I'm not even sure what you're talking about, Portrayal. I'm not going to, I know maybe somebody will try to talk through it and act like they know it. I don't even know what that is, just to be honest with you. So, no idea. DD, what's going on? Good to see you, Wonder Woman. I hope you're doing well tonight, DD. Moving on, here's a little the weird thing for you. Maybe some of you, I'm not a fan, but some of you probably are Morgan Wallen fans. I know he's somewhat controversial. Some of these things, I couldn't name a song. I don't know what he sounds like or anything. But some of you, I'm guessing, are, and maybe some of you have caught this video of him at his latest show, and the security guard is filming him like backwards, is holding the like this phone up, and he comes right over to the side of the stage, grabs the phone and flings it. If you've seen that video, that woman's phone, the woman who owns the phone, not the security guard, but that was somebody else's phone. That was a woman's phone that the security guard had. That woman is married to a guy who's a friend of mine who went to high school with me. So this guy, his name is Jason, and his wife go to the concert. They're there. She has her phone, I guess. She hands it to the security guard so the security guard can get a better closer up video. Now, of course, the security guard should not be doing this, but that's beside the point. And the security guard's kind of holding the phone up like this, like backwards. He comes over, grabs the phone, and flings it. Yeah, that's a friend of mine's wife's phone. Is that crazy? It's like a viral video now. He posted it on TikTok. It has all these views and everything. That's how quickly it can happen. Is that crazy or what? It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. I just found out about it today. So that is pretty funny. Yeah, I does not do killers like that. Sorry, but my thought on it. No, we will not. Yeah, yeah, if there's a serial killer or something, unless it's like Zodiac, and of course I dipped my toe into the Colonial Parkway murders. Other than that, it's really, we start talking about killing sprees and things, really not something that I concentrate on, although I may touch upon it once in a while on the live show, but that's totally by choice. It's certainly not really part of the work that I do. But D certainly seems to have a better handle on it than I do, Vengeance. So there you go. So I thought you might find that funny. If you've seen that video, if you're a Morgan Wallen fan, yeah, that's a buddy of mine's wife's phone that got flung. Crazy. And then one more thing regarding personal stuff. And this just happened like an hour ago. I had done a little food shopping this evening, and I was kind of in the mood. I ate like at 11 o'clock today or noon or something like that, and was kind of hungry, but I had some food shopping to do. So I got one of these, like, I don't know, kind of pizzas in a box. It's not frozen, but I forget what it's even called. I have the box over there. But all you have to do is, it's like cold, and then all you have to do is put it in the oven for so long. So I came back, started heating the oven up. About 10 minutes into the heating process, I start hearing like this crackling. What's going on? Crackling. I'm waiting for the oven to get up to the right temperature before I put the pizza in there. Crackling going on inside the oven. I'm like, what is that? And, I cook, and I use I have an air fryer. I have the popcorn maker. I have my machines over there. I have my George Foreman grill that I use. But the actual oven part of the oven, where you open the drawer up and everything, I don't know if I've ever used it, but I was going to have to use it for this pizza. Well, I should have looked inside the oven before I turned the heat on. Here, there was some sort of plastic tray in there for some reason. I probably put it in there at some time and forgot. That was the crackling. It was melting in there. And I figured that out, slightly opened up the thing. I was like, don't do that. You don't want to give this, if it catches fire, this is only going to give it oxygen. So I shut the oven off and had to wait for everything to cool down before I could open up the oven. And I destroyed this plastic tray, of course. And now there's like plastic stuff that's dripped onto the bottom of the oven. So I didn't get to cook my pizza. So the pizza went into the refrigerator. And I'll have to clean the oven tomorrow. But the whole place like stinks now. And it smells like antifreeze. If you've ever, from your car, that's what it smells like. It's not the greatest. It's not the nicest smell in the world. But I'm glad that I heard that. If I'd just turned on the oven and maybe done something and just been waiting, come back in 10 minutes, who knows what would have happened. Oh, my goodness. So I guess I'll just have to cook that pizza tomorrow. It'll be fine. It's in the refrigerator. It's cold. I'll just have to cook it tomorrow after I clean the oven. Of course, probably the oven needs cleaning anyway. I was friends with PJ. Okay. I'm not sure what that means, D. All right. Let's get to, that's really all the stuff that personal stuff. That's really about it. Just going to the gym every day, getting my 7,500 steps in, hitting the weights, feeling good, getting a little sun, getting work done. This Atlantic series, I have to tell you, it's become so much more than I ever could have envisioned. As many of you know, I planned to do this series last year and just didn't work out. I think it's good that it got delayed because if you can believe it, including this Friday, we have at least 3 more new disappearances to go. Now, of course, Tony Schwartz, is from before. But this Friday, the Friday after that, the Friday after that, all going to be new disappearances, all occurring off the Atlantic coast of Florida during the 1980s. It's crazy. And then I still have to include the interview I did with the Coast Guard investigator, the guy from the CGIS. And I'm going to do a wrap-up show with Eric. Of course, he started this series. He's going to come back and we're going to talk about, analyze these disappearances a little bit, kind of get an overall view. And then I'm even thinking about maybe doing an episode where I talk about all the disappearances where I couldn't find family members to talk to. I might even do that. And that, of course, will just be on my own. I'll just go through the facts and kind of analyze it the best I can. So we got a ways to go on this. Really a ways to go. The response has been very, very positive. And, I don't know if anybody's ever done this. I don't know if anybody's, of course, as, Vengeance asking me about serial killers, certainly there have been shows, podcasts, YouTube channels that have looked at murders, actual murders with bodies that happen in a particular area, like the Colonial Parkway murders, although, as you know, I think that's not very well named. And, of course, Zodiac, of course, many, 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 many times. But, how many productions out there have looked at disappearances in a particular area at a particular time, week after week after week? Probably not too many. Not too many. But I've been very fortunate in that most of these disappearances are not well known. And luckily, some of these family members have been pretty easy to find. And I maybe have gotten a little lucky too. But, and of course, they've never been interviewed before. They've never done any because nobody ever contacts them. These disappearances are 40 some years old. And so they're ecstatic to talk to somebody who actually is interested. And in fact, today's guest that you will hear on Friday, you don't even know how happy she was that, I found her and tracked her down and messaged her and everything. She has a little bit of a unique story. I don't want to ruin it. But, and I was able to help her because I was able to find out a bunch of additional information that she never knew. And I think that, that's what we've been able to do. Of course, especially going back to Teresa Hickman, Angela Westbury. And of course, they're going to be topics again when I have the Coast Guard guy on maybe next week. Maybe we'll kind of break it up and I'll have him on next week or something. And then we'll go back to disappearances. I haven't totally decided yet, but I've already interviewed him, so I can just put him in there, slot him in wherever I want. But I really like how this series has gone. I really, really like it. And it is amazing. And it's so weird that, although I don't want to say too much, it very well could be that some of these disappearances are connected, and maybe that will start to come into focus this Friday. So I'll talk about that a little later. So, other stuff that is going on. I updated the database. Hope all of you haven't. I know I haven't mentioned it in a while because I've been working on so many things, especially regarding the series. But the Unfound database, you can find the link in the discussion group. You can find it if you go to theunfoundpodcast.com. You can find the link to it up in the margin there at the top of the screen if you want to check it out. The database is fully updated up to now this past Friday with Melanie and Eugene's disappearances. Went in and put in all the criteria, all different 20-some criteria. So you want to go there and start flipping around, hitting buttons there and trying to find out about certain kinds of disappearances that fit this criteria, that criteria. You can go do that now for all of Unfound's disappearances going way, 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 way back to the very first episode of Susie Lyles. So I took some time. What I should be doing is doing that every time an episode comes out, but I haven't been. So I had to catch up. I think that everything after Manuel Bea needed to be put in there. So I think that started with Tanner Sharp and onward. They are now all in the database. Very happy about that. And hopefully after this series is over, I want to get back to doing some more scientific analysis of all of Unfound's disappearances. Of course, I've already done kind of that already, and you heard part of it when I was on Dr. Telesco's show last semester, going way back to November. I talked a little bit about some of the stats that have come from Unfound's disappearances, and I want to continue to work on that, but I've put a lot on my plate here for 2026. So if you haven't been to the database in a while, and if you're unsure, well, how do I get to it? Just go to the website, theunfoundpodcast.com. You will see it up in the margin, the Unfound database. Just click on that. Moving on, I posted in the discussion group, at least, that our friend John Lorden posted a video. It was 3 minutes long. As I think most of you know now, you know that he has cancer. During the month of May, he went for treatment. The video that he did, he shows a scar that would be on the left side of his neck. He says there are additional tests and things that need to be done. And so I hope you are following him. It does seem that he did do some videos. I think that he got a lot of work done before, he had to go for everything that's being done to him. And so hopefully you wish him the best. If you believe in thoughts and prayers, I know, I'm not here to force anybody's ideology and theocracy or anything on anybody, but if you're into that, please do that for him. My advice to him was, and you should know, cancer does run in my family. Both of my biological parents died of cancer. And my biological father was at stomach or throat cancer. My biological mother started as bladder cancer. And then my brother Brian had cancer. He's fully recovered and is in fantastic shape for being in his early to mid 70s now. So I know about it. I've seen it up close. And the best advice I could give to John Lorden was, I told him, many of you know my favorite band is Iron Maiden. And Bruce Dickinson, their lead singer, got a cancer very similar to what John has. And in Bruce Dickinson's book that came out around 2021, 2022, something, it's called What Does This Button Do? Trust me, it makes sense. He devotes a chapter toward the end of the book about being diagnosed with it and everything that he had to go through, to get back to 100%. And this happened way back in 2014 into 2015. And, wasn't really sure whether he was going to make it. And he talks about going for the treatments and all of the side effects and everything else in his book. And it's both scary and humorous. Bruce Dickinson is known as having quite the sense of humor. And he is very blunt about the things that he had to go through, the ugly side effects and everything else that he had to go through to get through that. And I said, John, you might want to check that. It might be a little, especially since Bruce got through it 100%, give you, something, to have hope. And of course, Bruce Dickinson being a singer, you start talking about operations on the throat and everything. You start getting, wow, what can happen? And, am I ever going to be able to sing again and all that? And of course, Bruce has come back 100%. I mean, you can listen to if you haven't been to a concert, just go on to right here on YouTube, watch any of the live stuff that they've done. And you will hear, this is a guy who is now 660. He's going to be 68 in August. And that's a guy who had throat cancer, and he's singing like that. So that's what I sent John, that, you might want to check that. I'll give you some hope, kind of a little levity for the situation. And, I think John may have an advantage. He's younger than Bruce was when Bruce had it happen to him. And so I'm hoping John pulls through 100%. And I've not heard anything to think otherwise. But, I know many of you follow what John does. If you've not seen that video, I hope you go watch it. Give him as much support as possible. And yes, I should say, going back to, of course, he and I worked together on Haydar Abushakra's disappearance. And I want to extend a thanks to John because being that we were working together, he entrusted me with his health issue. He really didn't need to do that. But I think because we were working together, that he felt a responsibility, because he said, here's we kind of got a general timeline. And then I think he figured out he wasn't going to be able to hold to that timeline. And he could have just said, I got caught up at a couple different episodes and things. And if he would have said that, totally fine. Totally fine. But that he intimated to me what was going on and everything, that he trusted me with that. I really appreciate it. Of course, I kept my mouth shut. So I want, John's out there. I appreciate him. Of course, being honest, he didn't have to do that, but, to trust me with that. And I said, great. Whenever you want to tell the public about it, whether you tell the public at all, that's up to you. My lips are sealed. So give a huge shout out to John Lord and go over to his channel and give him your best. Don't drink, don't smoke. That's always good advice. I don't do either. But of course, we know with cancer, certainly those can raise the probabilities. But, my biological mother, Suzanne, she's like me. Never a drinker, never a smoker. So she still ended up getting cancer. Now, granted, she was like 86, 87 when she was diagnosed. But, it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I have cancer in my family too. My mom died from it. Sorry to hear that. Poor trail. I didn't know John was sick. My thoughts to him. John's a good dude. He is. Yeah. You can go see Vengeance. You can go to his channel, Lord and Arts. He did a video where he finally reveals it to everybody. Late April, early May. And then he did a video within the past week, like a follow-up as to his condition. And I can't imagine it. Just can't imagine it. My sis died last month from cancer, and the cancer my sis had nothing to do with me. Yeah, a lot of genetic stuff at play. All right, so moving on, haven't started them yet because I've been planning it out, but I'm going to start a new video series here on the YouTube channel, and I'm just going to call them right now. I'm just calling them 2-minute disappearance lessons, and they're just going to be 2MDL. And so you will see it'll just say 2MDL : and then it'll have the title of whatever the lesson is for that day. And like I said, it's just be 2 minutes. 2 minutes. The way I'm going to do this, I've already started charting out what I want to say. I'll probably use this computer here, my MacBook, which is what I use for all the live shows, and also to actually make the podcast on GarageBand, which is on this MacBook. I'm going to just do kind of a stream of conscience type of thing. And then, of course, dice it up so it's nice and tight, no longer than 2 minutes. And just to give you an idea of some of the topics, let me see if I can, I should have planned this beforehand. I'll give you an idea on some of the topics. As is, you would probably suspect, some of these topics are, well, you know, the way I talk about them, it's probably going to be a little bit controversial. Let me see if I can find this. No. Maybe it's on this computer. Maybe it's on the other computer. Not seeing it on this computer. It must be on this computer. Let me see here for a second. Yep, here we go. Some of the topics are going to be why families are better equipped than they think. Once again, I'm just going to do these. They're only going to be 2-minute videos. They might put these in the shorts category. Going to do the truth about private investigators. What to do immediately when a disappearance happens. What to do when your case is over 20 years old. Why searches fail. What to do when police don't respond. The truth about phone records. Why video is overrated. The truth about psychics. How to make the most of a media interview. The truth about rewards. When a car goes missing as well. The truth about billboards and flyers. The truth about dogs. So these are just some examples of the topics. I have like 40 different categories or something, 40 different topics that I've brainstormed on, and I'm currently putting notes under each of them. So I'm going to start that series. I don't know how many I'm going to do per week. It very well may just be one a week, but be looking for that. That will be happening sometime very soon. And like I said, I'm calling it the 2-minute disappearance lesson. So when you watch this, it's going to be a very compact way for people to start to learn about what is really going on with disappearances. You know, after 10 years of experience interviewing, even though I've done 400 interviews or whatever that have actually made it onto the podcast, but when it comes to everybody, I've interviewed probably 1,000 people. You know, as many people that I've talked to over the past 10 years, it's probably out to 1,000, considering how many people I've talked to who haven't made it onto the podcast, and people that I've talked to who are kind of like, backup people. Like the guest said, well, I want you to talk to this person too. And so I'll go to that person and, get information, even though none of you will ever know who that person is, because I try to keep those people off the record. But I've talked to probably around 1,000 people total about disappearances over the last 10 years. So we're going to use all that condense it into these 2-minute disappearance lessons, and I will take great joy in knowing that some of them are going to tick people off. Just the way it goes. Just has to be done. It's not on purpose. That's just the way it happens. That's just the way it goes. So be looking for that. All right, let's go to, I'm going to hit this disappearance topic first, and that would be the Jodi Huisentruit news that has come out recently. Y'all, okay, Ed. Yeah, all right. I don't know what that means, Dave. All right, Jodi Huisentruit. Of course, this is a disappearance that was featured on Unfound some years ago now. Seems like yesterday. It's been a while. 6 years? 7 years? I still remember where I was. I don't know why this is. I was at an Airbnb in Brooksville, Florida, north of here. And I was playing in a disc golf tournament. By the way, I haven't been playing any disc golf. Working out and getting fit has taken the place of disc golf for 2026. And I'm not going to get back into disc golf until I get my mind right. I have when I start back on and up there on the wall, you can just see part of it right there. It is a kind of a mental sports psychology, mental practice thing that I've not started doing yet. But when I get back into disc golf, I'm going to be using that to kind of rewire my brain for disc golf. Anyway, I remember I was at an Airbnb in Brooksville. It was one of the nicer Airbnbs that I've been in. And I remember interviewing Caroline Lowe for that episode. But of course, I've known about Jodi's disappearance since virtually when it happened in 1995. And it is actually the first disappearance that I ever started wanting to read about when I first got on the internet sometime in 1996. It was the first disappearance that I actually ever looked up for anything. Of course, the internet at the time was very rudimentary. But so this is a disappearance that continues to stick with me, not because, because she was a reporter or because of the way she looked or because she got national attention and everything. It was just the first disappearance that caught my eye. But there is news that has come out, and I'm going to go through it with you right now. So there's this guy's private investigator's named Steve Ridge. He seems to think that he is on the trail of the person who abducted Jodi, caused her disappearance, probably killed her. Very, very sadly, no proof of that she's dead, and I continue to have my doubts. And this is him talking. He did an interview, and I'm just going to read it, and then I will analyze what's going on here. So Steve Ridge got a tip. And we have to remember, Jodi's disappearance just passed its 31-year anniversary, 31 years ago. The tipster was dating a suspect in the case or person of interest, so says Steve Ridge, who eventually, in her presence, confessed. And it came at a very heated moment when the two of them were being tailed by authorities up in Minnesota, Ridge said, according to the outlet. The tipster, who I guess was this guy's girlfriend or something, the tipster said the alleged killer pulled over and he was hitting the steering wheel and said, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And he finally hit the steering wheel and said, I did it. Ridge did not reveal the identity of the possible suspect or whether the person is still alive. Ridge told the outlet he provided the evidence to the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation. Ridge said, I was able to conclusively determine that this female informant had a short-term romantic relationship with the suspect. I secured and verified photos, handwritten letters, canceled checks, and other items. Now, you should know Steve Ridge has been working on Jody's Huisentruit's disappearance for a long time. He is not part of findjody.com. My opinion on it, I'm not speaking for Caroline and really she's the only person I really know there. Really know. I'm not speaking for any of them. My attitude toward Jody's disappearance is independent of the people at findjody.com, although I think they've done great work over the years. But in my estimation, I would say that the people at findjody.com and Steve Ridge have had maybe what we would call an adversarial relationship. He is not part of them. They're not with him. It seems that, their attitude towards Jody's disappearance is contrary to one another. If I may speak for myself, my assessment of it is that the people at findjody.com find Steve Ridge to be a publicity hound, which is no different than my opinion on how most private investigators are when it comes to disappearances. A lot of getting out there in front of cameras, getting in front of microphones and spouting this off and spouting that off. How many disappearances get solved by private investigators? Virtually none. Virtually none. So we have to just keep that in mind. I'm not saying it's never happened, but as we all know by this time, if you're listening to Unfound and you follow it closely, you know that most disappearances are solved by luck. We're trying to change that because luck is not something you can rely on. But most disappearances are solved by luck. No matter how much work private investigators do out there, whether they're getting paid, they're not getting paid, working pro bono, whatever it may be, still, most disappearances get solved by luck. So what do I think about this? Now, he does say that he turned the information into the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation. I'm guessing then that the Mason City Police Department, that I believe is still primarily responsible for Jody's disappearance, got the information too. But what's Steve doing going to the media? Now, and I say that as a member of the media. What exactly is he doing? Why would you do that? Why? Now, I'll tell you how I handle things when it comes to information that I get. Now, of course, I don't have a tip line. I just have my email, unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. That's where everything goes. Messages from family members, messages from other podcasters, messages from some of you, whoever. It all goes to the same place. And here is how I, as a member of the media, handle such things. If Steve Ridge would have contacted me with this, here's exactly, and he would have said, well, I'm coming to you first. Here's what I usually do. I just say, I don't know why you're sending it to me, man. I can't do anything. Once an episode comes out, if a guest wants to contact me about something they've heard, we can certainly talk it over because I trust them. They trust me. We can have a confidential, private, off the record, nothing's going to be made public talk. And I think after 10 years, although I wouldn't say a ton of guests have done that with me, I think the ones that have learned, you know what, man, Ed's right. I talked to him. It goes right into the vault. I give my most honest opinion on these things. Now, and then I will give them my best advice, whether they follow it or not, who knows. But when it comes to actually someone who's not a guest, somebody who's just happened to hear an episode, whether it's a longtime listener like many of you, or just somebody who is interested in one particular disappearance and then hears it and then says, oh, wait, I might know something, and contacts me. I've talked about this before. What do? I don't know why you're sending it to me, man. At that point, I'm just a middleman. If you think that you have a good piece of information, just go to the police. You know, I went through this some months ago where what was the disappearance? It was oh my goodness. It was, hold on. I knew that I was going to have hold on one second for me to get my mind right. It was this is bad programming, Ed. Leanne Hosberg. Right. That's who it was. Yes. I had somebody who contacted me with allegedly good information about, of course, she was a girl, New York City, went missing. Her father was the guest. This person contacted me saying the father lied, and there's this, there's that, all these different accusations, and they've been working on it and everything else. And I was like, just take it to the police. And they're like, well, I can't do that. And I said, well, then I can't help you. This is also the attitude. I have information on a case. I need you to call me right now. And the person will put the phone number. I'm going to save you the drama. I'm not calling you. I'm not doing that. In fact, I'm not even going to check your phone number in the database that I have where I can check people's phone numbers. I'm not even going to do that. You want to tell me what you know, you put it in an email, and then I'll decide if we have to talk about it or not. And also, if you send me information, but in the end, I don't know what you want me to do with it. I'm not the police. I'm not an investigator. I don't have the power of the state. I can't issue subpoenas. I can't, give out warrants. I don't know what you do me. And it's always weird to me when I say that to people and they get ticked off, as this person did. So when I look at Steve Ridge, it's kind of the opposite. What are you doing going to the media? What are you doing? What are you doing? I just don't find it to be very ethical. It's not illegal. It's not immoral. He's not going to go to hell because of this. But I think it is unethical. And as I've been known to say sometimes, it's not, if nothing else, it's just icky. It's like what I say when I see older men dating, unfortunately, like we had with Eugene Pavey and, 50 years old marrying a 19-year-old. It's not illegal. It's not immoral. It's not unethical, but it is kind of icky. And this is icky and unethical. A tip line is for information to go to the police. A tip line is not get information and then go running to the media. And unfortunately, you just have too much media that will actually publish this crap. As I say, no good investigator, private or otherwise, should go to the media with something like this. If somebody came to me, and this is my point, if somebody came to me, if Steve Ridge would have come to me, I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do with that, man. I don't know what you want me to do with that. I know we're thinking, well, this is information. It's a tip line. It doesn't mean anything. And I should state for the record, I don't think this is anything. People can call in and make all sorts of crap up. And I know what he's saying. It doesn't mean anything. So if somebody calls me with something like this 30 years after the fact, I just tell them to go to the police. I'm not publishing it. Now, you may say, well, once in a while you have kind of covered, rumors and such things, with the guest. Different, because that's the guest. Usually, for the most part, unless it's like Heather Grotman or someone, they know the missing person. They've been living with this for years and years and years. There might be in their position, in a better position to gauge something like that. But even then, when myself and the guests start talking about that, what do I usually do? I try to be very cynical about it. And I ask additional questions and try to present counter arguments. I don't know. Maybe very well may be true. But with something like that, I think that you have to be, I hate using this word because it's associated with some news channel out there that I don't watch, but very balanced about it. Whereas with this, it's just full bore. This is it. Whereas what I would say, if somebody were to approach me with information like this, you're just going to take the word of some jilted lover. This is what I say about Steve Pankey and his now deceased wife, ex-wife. Nobody should ever be judged by, their exes. Certainly listen to it. Certainly should not run to a reporter regarding it. Bad idea. So if he were to come to me, I would I don't know. All right, so she said this, it's just her. We have certainly run into all sorts of cases, like John Benet Ramsey. Does everybody remember John Mark Carr, who took credit for murdering her? He wasn't even in the United States when she got murdered, and he's taking credit for it. We have all sorts of crazy people taking all sorts of crazy responsibility for things they didn't do. We have serial killers who might have killed 3 people, and they're bragging about killing 30 just for the attention. Common. People lying, people, all these guys who say they know something about a disappearance just so they can get out of jail for a day when they really don't know anything. People make stuff up, including missing people. Missing people say all sorts of lies before they go missing. So I just tell this Steve Ridge, go to the police. I don't know why you're talking to me. What do you want? Attention? What do you want? A nice little slap on the back? Way to go, Steve. Good job. You're doing so good. Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, you're so good. Look at you. Yet Jody's still missing. I don't get it. As I say, well, he's, this person said this, and it's probably a sentence that has become just part of my lexicon with all sorts of things, not just with disappearances, but a lot of things that go on in my life. Well, this person said that, and I just say people say a lot of things. So I'm not inclined to believe any of this. But I had to talk about it. It's in the news. And I do feel a responsibility when it is a disappearance that Unfound is covered to bring it up, but I am going to criticize it. To me, I have more experience than Steve Ridge does. I bet I'm better at predicting the resolutions to disappearance better than Steve Ridge does. In fact, I'm sure he doesn't do it. If he does it, he doesn't keep track of his statistics. I do. I went through it in the Q&A episode. You got to all hear it. And this just does not strike me as anything noteworthy at all. At all. Now, was Jodi Huisentruit abducted? Yes. Was she probably murdered? Probably pretty quickly. Probably. Is she still in the Mason City area? Hard to tell. Is this somebody she knew? I mean, actually knew the person, or maybe it was a group, people's or person's name? I don't think so. I don't think so. All we know is certainly whoever took her knew who she was and knew her schedule. And what I would also say is if she thought she was in danger from anybody, I don't think that she would have been handling her life like she was, going out in the morning. And, she had what she claimed some car was following her truck, following months before she went missing. And I don't even think that's anything. No. And then we're supposed to believe 30 years later or however, whenever this happened, some guy just overcome with guilt, and his girlfriend is so hard on him and putting so much pressure on him and everything. He just spouts this off. Okay. It just seems fairly unlikely. But private investigators are going to do what they're going to do. And the thing is, if you pay attention to this, you see the patterns. All these private investigators are the same. There's a disappearance that I've been thinking about featuring here, in the live show. I haven't done it yet. But some crazy private investigator got involved with that one. And I actually talked to this private investigator years and years and years ago. I wanted to cover this disappearance. So before I developed my ideas about private investigators, and I talked to this person, I'm like, oh my, I can't have this person on the podcast. Maybe I already did feature that. Maybe I already did. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I already did feature that disappearance on a live show to analyze it. But, this same kind of behavior is so common among that profession. You see it over and over and over. Of course, we know about Phil Klein and others. And I keep going back also to this. I don't think she's in here tonight, but Assistant Sherri put me onto a disappearance and told me about this private investigator. It's been years ago, maybe 6 years ago, maybe COVID time. And I had this private investigator who, at least to that point, I had heard good things about him and talked to him on the phone. And he told me the craziest story about how this person went missing. And he got through this whole thing. And I just had to say to him, you don't really believe that, do you? And it's a disappearance that's still unsolved. I said, you really don't believe that? Are you hearing what you're saying? Still unsolved. But he was so sure this is what happened. Well, here we are these years later. Still unsolved. It just keeps coming up over and over and over. I don't know. I don't know why it happens. I don't know. I see it in, it's just not private investigators or Florida or Pennsylvania or California. It's all different states, different disappearances, different, all the same though when it comes to that. Thank you, Travis. Good to see you tonight. Thank you for, I know I'm a little late on that. Hello, Travis. You agree? Thanks. Attention seekers, Amy says, yeah. Yeah, private investigators in the Kardashians. For both of them, the most dangerous place is between them and a microphone or a camera. Moving on. Let's talk about this disappearance story. I had a listener who I think is in the chat tonight message me. I'd already heard about the disappearance of James Higginbotham, an young American male who went missing while in Japan. And I knew about it. Listener sent me a link to the story, and the listener and I have had a couple back and forths. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm just calling it, of course, in the title, it's called the Japan case. And I think the main question we have to try to answer is, did he plan to do this before his family ever went there? James Weston Higginbotham, a 20-year-old Auburn University student from Alabama, was found dead in a mountainous area in the Yamashina ward of Kyoto, Japan on June 6th of 2026. So that was 2 days ago. After an extensive week-long search, he had been vacationing with his family when he went missing. These are key details of the incident. Disappearance. He vanished on the evening of May 29th of 2026 after getting separated from his family. Police traced his last known movements to a train station and determined he headed toward local hiking trails before losing his cell signal. Search efforts. A multi-day police search involving over 100 officers, canines, and helicopters scoured the densely wooded and steep terrain. His family eventually hired a private search and rescue team, which ultimately located his body. So I guess his body was not found by accident. Cause of death as of early June 2026. The official cause of death has not been publicly released, but authorities have stated that no foul play is suspected. Now, additional information is that he got into an argument with, was it his mother or somebody else in his family, over ChatGPT. I couldn't understand, was that over the use of it, or they were talking to each other through ChatGPT? Is that possible? I don't even know if you can do that. So it does seem that some sort of argument precipitated this. Yeah, his mom, D, say his mom. Thank you, D. So did he plan this out or not? My experience tells me he probably did. I'm going to guess. Of course, disappearances are about people, not circumstances. Don't get caught up in it being in Japan or those things. We just have to look at James Higginbotham. And I don't think you need to be a disappearance expert and be able to predict the resolutions to disappearances to be able to say, most likely this young man had something going on. I would be shocked to hear that, yeah, everything was fine. He was healthy, physically fit, mentally fit, and everything. And then suddenly he goes to Japan and suddenly loses his mind, gets separated, walks off into the hills, and dies by some reason other than foul play. And we don't know. Did he commit suicide? Did he jump? Did he slip off of a trail? Was it an accident? We may never know. I'm inclined to believe this was on purpose. Just because of, what is the whole, he lives all these years. He's 20 years old, and I don't know how often they've been to Japan, but he's going to Auburn University. So he spent 99.99 something % of his life in the United States. He goes to Japan and then somehow gets in an argument with his mother, gets separated, goes up into the hills and dies. That doesn't sound like an accident to me. So did he have this planned out? It very well could be. Or, what I also think about is, getting to Japan is not easy. That is a long flight, especially if you live in Alabama. And of course, Alabama they don't have direct flights to Japan, but maybe had to go get on a plane there, maybe go to Houston to Japan, or Houston to San Francisco to Japan, something like that. And, even to me, that's no fun. I will tell you that I have a friend of mine, one of my very, very good friends, that used to have to travel overseas for work. And his company would actually give him, being that I know about my sleep issues and everything, his company would actually give him an Ambien so that he could sleep on the flight. And so that when he would get to his destination, there wouldn't be any jet lag. Now, is that scientifically based? I don't know. I think this friend of mine did it. I don't think he ever had any problems with it. But I've already told you I've never taken Ambien, don't have to. Now I'm sleeping great. But so I start thinking, could this be a part of it? All right. So he's maybe already has something going on, some sort of subtle mental health issue. And then they're going to be flying to Japan. And so maybe he has anxiety about flying, maybe anxiety with claustrophobia or something. So they give him something to chill him out, knock him out for the flight, wakes up in Japan and is all freaked out, doesn't handle it that well. I could see that. And of course, in that way, it would not be planned. It would be just this, I guess it would be the circumstances, made complex by maybe something going on with him. But, you could look at it a different way. If you really start looking into it, let's flip this around. Foreigners who come to the United States, and I'm not talking about the ones that we're so, hell-bent on keeping out of here. I'm talking about people that come here, on jets, with passports, with visas, or whatever else. You start looking at that, and you're going to be amazed how many foreigners go missing in the United States. And not because they came here and now they're going missing because they don't want to go back to where they're from. You have to remember something about the United States. It's a combination of a couple things. First of all, we have a very large country. Very expansive. Not as big as Canada and Russia, but the United States as a country is the third largest country on the earth. Is Australia somewhere third or fourth. Pretty big. And of course, virtually every country has a flight here. And people want to come here just to check everything out. And so for some people, maybe if they're having thoughts that aren't so nice, they think, well, the United States is a big place, easy to get to. Jets are going there. And that would be an easy place to disappear if I wanted to off myself. Trust me. Start looking into it. You'll see what I mean. So it might seem strange when we hear about a young man with his family going to Japan and then he goes missing and ends up deceased. But if you flip it around, there have been many foreigners who've come to the United States and done the same thing. So you have to look at it that way. And when you do, it doesn't seem as odd. It's very sad. It's very sad. If he did have some sort of issue, here's what I doubt. I doubt that whatever he got into with his mother was so bad that he went from being a mentally fit, 100% mentally fit person to, guy to suddenly saying, I have to go separate myself from my family and go out on a hiking trail and die. That seems pretty extreme for me. But what I would also say is if you're in a family and you have a family member who might be having issues, you suspect, it doesn't have to be, barking at the moon or anything, but probably the best choice is to not go on the best choice is probably not to go on that vacation. Getting in a plane, whether you're going to another country or not. If you're going to Hawaii, or if you are planning to go to, of course, the World Cup's going to be starting in a few days. If you're planning to fly to some city to see some of the World Cup games, or even if you're thinking about flying to Canada or you're flying to Cancun, probably not a good choice. And on top of that, we've seen the videos, these people who get on planes and suddenly lose their minds. Of course, some of them it's a put on. Some of them people just can't help themselves. Some of them want they want to go viral, and they're willing to put up with, I don't know, getting in trouble a little bit just for that. No different than these people who go to the Super Bowl or to the World Series or whatever, and probably going to have some situations during World Cup too, where some fan goes there and just wants to run around on the field. Publicize their website, their TikTok, their IPO, or whatever else. You have a lot of people like that. But I also think, getting back to the plane example, I think a lot of these are real. These people who are freaking out and playing in mid-flight when somebody tries to open the door, I don't think these are put-ons. These are people with mental health issues. And you may be thinking, well, doesn't it seem like it's getting worse? I think mental health is getting worse. I think the internet, our phones, these computers, and everything else, I think that if, they can be very valuable tools. Of course, I could not do my work without them. Could not do it. Not possible. Not possible. But like anything, you have to keep a right mindset when using them. It's no different than alcohol. Of course, most people, I'm not an alcohol drinker, but I think most people can have beer and wine their entire lives, and it's never a problem. You have to manage it in moderation. And then we know all of those thousands, if not millions of people over the generations where alcohol has destroyed their lives. So you just got to know. And people around those people have to keep an eye out. So getting back to this kid, I'm inclined to believe that he had some sort of issue. Mental health issue, made it through the plane flight, but that was about it. And then if you want to look at an unfound disappearance that might be comparable to this, let's not forget one of the earliest solved or resolved disappearances that happened to Unfound, Devin Bond. He was a few years younger than this kid. But remember, it seems his mother was the guest. I've not talked to her since. I've not talked to her since his remains were found. He committed suicide, but it seems that he did that because he wasn't allowed to see a girl. That's the way I remember it. I could be off, but that's the way I remember it. Took the family gun, took off middle of the night. So things happen. This stuff's happening all the time. It just got attention here because the kid's an American. He's in Japan, which, is, as far as industrialized nations go, it's one of the most peaceful. Not a lot of crime happening in Japan. Of course, they have their street gangs, the Yakuza and all that. But It's certainly not the United States. And so this kind of thing's going to get attention. Whereas if this kid would have gone to Brazil, which is a fairly violent country, or some other countries, probably still gets attention, but maybe not as much. And in fact, when that listener sent me a link to this story about, this young man who went missing, I said, well, the good news is Japan isn't a violent country. The bad news is Japan isn't a violent country. And what did I mean by that? I said, well, on one hand, the odds of him being murdered in Japan the odds of a Japanese person coming here to the United States and being a tourist and getting murdered, infinitely higher than an American going to Japan. So that was the good news. But the bad news also is that most likely the cause is not foul play, and that he's probably is missing, he's probably dead, and he probably did it himself. That was the bad news. So, and I guess this is another disappearance. I guess you could say that my prediction was correct. Very sadly. So, can't necessarily say that it was planned, though, but maybe it was in the back of his head and something pushed him over to the edge while he was in another country. All right, let's move on to Sherri Holland. It's the disappearance that seemingly did start here in Florida, although her vehicle was found in Georgia. Not sure. I've known about this disappearance for a long time, well before I started Unfound. Don't know why that is. And I did try. She has at least two sisters. One of them is a doctor who coincidentally lives in this area. And I emailed both of them, never got any response, even though it does sound like early on in Sherri's disappearance, her sisters were very involved, did media, but I don't think all these years later that this is happening. And we are coming up on the 30-year anniversary of this woman's disappearance. But what's interesting about this is that Sherri Holland was involved in the escort business in, yes, you guessed it, Jacksonville, Florida, right where Teresa and Angela were escorts, although Sherri's disappearance happened 12 years later. What do you know? All right, let me read this to you. Sherri Holland was last seen departing Flagler Beach, Florida in her vehicle bound for Atlanta. 8 days later, her car was found abandoned in the northbound lane of I-75 in Morrow, Georgia, Morrow, just south of Highway 54 near exit 76 between Macon, Georgia and Atlanta. I probably at the time looked it up on a map. I did not do in preparing for tonight. The right side front tire had a nail in it and the tire was flat. She has been not heard from since leaving Florida. Holland resided on Peachtree Battle Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia in 1996. So she had two places that she lived. It seems that she was originally from the state of Georgia. So she had a house there, and then she had this place in Flagler Beach. I guess the adult entertainment business was going quite well for her. And the Flagler place was her vacation home. Holland was planning to return to Atlanta from her Florida residence on August 16th. She was last seen between 11:30 a.m. and noon as she departed from her Flagler Beach home. She never arrived in Georgia as scheduled and has not been heard from again. Holland's sisters, the ones I tried to contact, filed a missing persons report in Georgia shortly after she failed to return there to Georgia. Authorities checked her residence and noted that there were few personal belongings inside the house. Her sisters and her boyfriend had keys to her Georgia home in 1996. All of them stated they did not enter the residence after Holland's disappearance. Holland's gold-colored BMW with Georgia license plate was found abandoned on August 25th. So 9 days later, 8 days after she was last seen, or 8 days later, the car was located. I've already stated where it was found, and the right tire was flat, right front. Both of Holland's dogs, so this is going to kind of remind you of Eric Alvarado. Both of Holland's dogs were found in a field near the Stratford Arms apartment complex in Riverdale. This was 2 miles from where her car was found. One of them had been killed. It got hit by a car. Once again, Eric Alvarado. But the other dog, named Gracie, was rescued and given to one of Holland's sisters. Several witnesses told authorities that Gracie, the dog, had periodically, in the time before and between the disappearance and when these dogs were found, everything was found out, that the dog had periodically walked along Valley Hill Road and Upper Riverdale Road during the time. One of the complex residents said that Gracie attempted to lead him towards a wooded area across the street from the apartments. Investigators searched the location, but no evidence pertaining to Holland's case was discovered. Authorities received an anonymous tip that Holland was seen near her BMW on the day of her disappearance. The informant claimed that Holland was loading luggage into a white pickup truck at the time. So I guess what they're saying is, here she was driving back to Atlanta. When her car was found, her luggage wasn't found in it, but other stuff was found in it, and I'll get to that. Investigators searched the area where her car was abandoned, but no evidence was located. The sighting has never been confirmed. Holland operated an escort service in 1996. Authorities interviewed her business partner after Holland vanished. Her associate stated that the service had been in existence since 1992. The individual told investigators that he believed Holland had been murdered as the result of her business ventures. Authorities noted that her partner spoke of her in the past tense during that interview. That wouldn't mean anything to me. The individual said that Holland had made several enemies in the past. Holland allegedly placed hidden video cameras around the escort service's property. She reportedly recorded her employees and clients in compromising situations, then used the materials to blackmail the individuals. Holland's partner said that he heard several people discuss murdering her prior to her disappearance. Now, you should know something. She was not your usual, as it says in one of the news articles that I read. This is all off the Charlie Project. I did look up some actual news articles written back in 1996. The way Sherri handled her business, she was not, she had ads out there. But what she would do, bizarrely, is that she would not go to places to meet men. It's not like, well, let's go to this hotel or whatever. She would actually have them come to her place. That's what it says in one of the articles. And I know that sounds so bizarre. The weird thing is, though, I lived in an apartment complex in Las Vegas where that exact thing was going on. Pretty sure. Pretty sure. So it might not be as rare as we all think. Of course, I know nothing about such things. Holland allegedly placed hidden video. So she might have had cameras inside her place and then videoed these people attempting to blackmail them, I guess is where I'm going with this. Holland had been involved with a married boyfriend since 1989. He told authorities that he separated from his wife briefly in 1990, but they had since reconciled. Holland and her boyfriend had apparently planned to marry by December 96, but he was having second thoughts at the time of her disappearance and remained married to his wife. Holland's boyfriend told investigators that he and Holland argued about the state of their relationship before she left for her Flagler Beach home in August 1996. So he was in Georgia. That's where she was. And then she went to Flagler. She left a residence in Georgia while the matter was still unresolved. Her boyfriend stated that Holland paged him at approximately 11:30 on the day she disappeared. So she's in Florida. He's in Georgia. He called her back, and she said she would phone him after she arrived in Atlanta. Holland's boyfriend said that he never heard from her again. He also said that he did not believe his wife was aware of her affair. Yeah, there's a husband in complete denial. I don't know the names of any of these people. I haven't looked them up. I don't even know if they're public. Several of Holland's friends told authorities that she was depressed over her relationship and was tiring of the escort business in August of 96. She reportedly mentioned traveling to Europe to escape the situation. A source came forward with a recorded phone conversation between one of Holland's sisters and an unidentified person in September of 96. During the conversation, her sister said that it was possible that Holland went abroad and essentially staged her own disappearance. Authorities do not know if Holland left of her own accord or if other circumstances were involved in her case. Her disappearance remains unsolved. So I'm wondering how many of you have ever heard of this disappearance. I'm going to guess hardly any of you. Now I ask you, you tell me a disappearance with all of that, why hasn't it gotten more attention over the last 30 years? It's hard to understand, right? It's still bizarre to me, because as I think I've shown in picking out these disappearances that I've been featuring on the live show, there are so many out there that have a lot of stuff to analyze and things to do. But still, so many people still just want to go over Brian Schaefer, Jennifer Kessie, and Mara Murray. Some additional information, and I told you I would get to this. Remember, their luggage was not in the car. What was in her car when her car was found? When police found Holland's car in 1996, there was a loaded gun in it, a purse, and more than $2,400 in cash in the car on the side of the road with a flat tire. But no wallet and no suitcases. It's a real stumper, isn't it? These are the types of disappearances. Of course, I'll talk to anybody. These are the ones that these are the ones that challenge me with these facts that don't so neatly work out, and they don't sync up very nicely and things. These are the ones that really, really test me, and I love to be tested. So we should state, yes, she was running an escort service. She might have had women working for her, but also she was a prostitute or escort herself. And she would advertise herself in Atlanta, those types of publications, let's say, in the back. And she even had her picture in there, and she went by the name Christy, Christy, calling, Atlanta Excitement or something like that. Now, what's also interesting to me is she was in the military. If you go to her Charlie Project page where her pictures are, you will see a picture of her with some sort of military hat on. And it seems to be like an American flag in the background. And yes, I did think of Teresa Hickman when I saw that. So that is the situation. Woman down there in Flagler Beach, driving back seemingly to Atlanta, and car eventually doesn't make it there. Car found on the side of the road. There's a nail in the tire. The right front tire is flat. Loaded gun in the car, cash in the car, purse in the car, but no luggage in the car and no wallet. So the purse was, women usually keep the wallet inside the purse. The purse was there. The wallet that would be inside the purse, not there, but the cash was there. You heard about the dogs, very sad. One of them got hit by a car. The other one survived and was given to a sister. So in a consultation situation, hi, Ed, I've been listening to you about 6 years. So good to catch you live. Your voice helps me go to sleep every night. You're welcome. You're welcome, Skeeter. I'm going to take that as a compliment. My voice just putting people to sleep all over the world. Scooter, thank you for making time tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So, questions. What would I be thinking? Where would my mind be going regarding this disappearance? Really need to know a lot. Yeah, it's a compliment. Thank you, Skater. I appreciate it. I'm just joking around. Thank you. Thanks for joining in. Thank you for making yourself known tonight. Who knew that she was planning? How well was it known that she was driving back to Atlanta that day? How long had she been down there? What did she do down there? What was going on in Flagler Beach? Why did she go down there? Was she seeing anybody? Was she just hanging out? What was she doing? We really, really, really need to know a lot about what she was doing in Flagler Beach in the first place. I understand she had a place there, but was this common? How long did she usually stay? Did she do some of her business while she was here in Florida? I think she did, but I'd really want to know more about that. How often did she go from Atlanta? You know, all those things. We really, really need to know quite a bit about this trip. It sounds to me like she just went with herself and her dogs. Are we sure she was not meeting somebody? Now, of course, we have to remember, her car was not found at her place in Flagler Beach. Her car was not found close to where she lived in Georgia either. It was kind of halfway in between. This is really what makes this disappearance really tough. So moving on. Her luggage wasn't in the car. So she took her luggage, but not the dogs. Or somebody took the somebody took the luggage. But you have to remember the money was in there. Somebody took the luggage, but not the gun. Somebody took the luggage, but not the money. Was the luggage really taken? Of course, the other question is, was the car locked? If the car sits out there for a long time, well, are we sure somebody didn't go by, saw a Mercedes, or it was a BMW sitting there, kind of looped around, made sure that there was no, and the doors were unlocked. Somebody just went in there and just ripped it off. And are we sure that this tire was actually flat when the car was there? Are we sure somebody just didn't randomly come along and for some reason put a nail in it because people are idiots? Moving on, were the people who were closest to her know what kind of business she was in? Was she, I guess what I'm saying is, was she pretending to be a real estate agent, but she was really an escort and dancer and all that? Was she pretending to be a cosmetics salesperson, like Mary Kay or something, driving to house when she was doing this? Was she pretending to be, I don't know, was she pretending to be something that she wasn't? This would be interesting for me to know. And of course, not just for tax reasons. So did the people around her know what she was doing? Of course, the obvious, what are the alibis? Of course, we talked about this married guy. We talked about her business partner. Well, I got to ask, what are their alibis? What are they? And did these guys live in Georgia? Did they live in Florida? Did one live in each place? When was the last time these guys saw her? Phone info, of course, it's 1996. But what about beeper info? I start thinking about that time. Start thinking about her, the work that she was doing, Do we have any beeper info? Did anybody bother to look into any of that? I'd also want to know, of course, given the work that she did and seemingly with men actually coming over to her place to do this, I'm also thinking of Jamie Lee Curtis in Trading Places. Of course, we know that she was a prostitute in that movie and the guys were coming to her place. That sounds so dangerous, but the whole thing's dangerous. Any women doing this, dangerous. I don't, it's just dangerous. But, does she have any stories of being followed? Being that guys were going to her place, any guys sitting outside of her place, any guys trying to get in the way of other guys going to see her? Any stories like that she ever passed along to anybody? I'd want to know also regarding the place that she left, her Flagler Beach place, what was its condition? Any signs of violence? Anything missing that should have been there? Anything there that shouldn't have been? And also, how did she get along with the neighbors and everything? I want to know a lot more about this Flagler Beach place. And it also, of course, this would take some sort of mechanic, of course, probably too late now, 30 years later. But did the nail actually cause the flat tire? There are ways to be able to tell that. Because it just depends. Just because you run over a nail in your car doesn't mean that the air is going to go out of the tire. That doesn't, it very well could be if the nail is sharp enough and, everything, it could actually kind of seal itself. Now, eventually, yes, it'll start leaking. That does cause a weakness in the tire. But sometimes, not always. Not always. And in fact, if you're going to run over anything on the sharp that's on a road, probably a nail is your best bet as far as the tire surviving. In contrast to running over like a screwdriver or something like that. So I'd want to know more about this nail in the tire, and did it actually cause it, or was it kind of staged or something? So those are some of the questions that come to mind. This would certainly help me make a better prediction than I'm going to do tonight. All very relevant. I'm not saying those answers aren't out there, but of course, I've never spoken to anybody in her family. And maybe I should put this on my list of things to do to try to reach out to her sisters again, see if they want to talk about it, being that we're coming up on 30 years now. So my analysis, first and foremost, I reject the sighting. I mean, what are the odds it's a white pickup? What are the odds? To me, this sounds like some psychic that's calling in a tip. That's what it sounds like to me. When you get something like this, other than just somebody just being an idiot, just having nothing else to do on a particular day. It does strike me that that this sighting is probably not true. I'm not saying necessarily that she didn't get picked up or anything, but how convenient that it's a white pickup. It couldn't be a red Corvette. It couldn't be a green Taurus. It couldn't be a brown Oldsmobile. No, it just happens to be one of the most common vehicles on the road, a white pickup of unknown. Was it two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive? Was it Chevy? Was it Ford? Was it Dodge? Was it a two-door? Was it a four-door? Was it a long bed? Was it a short bed? We got nothing. White pickup. This is no different than we had like the shooters and the Beltway shooters. The idea. Oh yeah, they were in a white box truck. Yeah, there's only like 1 million of them on the roads, and of course they weren't in that at all. As far as the nail goes, I have to admit, it sounds a little too Columbo for me. And what I mean by that is, did somebody set her up? Did she, this is of course going back to like the Maura Murray thing. Did somebody put that rag in her car so her car would, blow up or whatever happened to it? Putting a nail in a tire is not the easiest thing to do. Of course, the tires are thick. And, what are you going to do? Can you actually hammer a nail into a tire? Probably you can. But if this were the situation, would we not have all sorts of kind of disappearances like this? Nails and tires and women pulling over and them getting abducted and everything. Paige Renkowski got abducted from her car on the side of the road, but there was nothing wrong with the car. So did somebody do that to set this all up? Of course, we had with Sue Swedell, somebody did that. Something seemingly emptied out her, coolant in her car so it would overheat, so she'd have to pull over. That's much more predictable than putting a nail in a tire. I mean, you take the coolant out of a car, it's going to overheat in like 2 minutes. You put a nail in a tire, as I stated, it might not lose any air at all. So it's not a very good way if you're trying to get somebody. So I think where I'm going with this is I'm going to say this is probably more likely some sort of vandalism or something. This happens. If a car's sitting along the side of the road and it seems like it sat there for a while. We also have to keep in mind, it seems unlikely to me that somebody came along, got her or abducted her, took her luggage, but didn't take the gun, didn't take the money. In addition, it seems unlikely, although maybe not. Would she take her luggage but not the dogs? Would she leave the gun? Would she leave the money? Like I said, these are the kinds of disappearances that really challenge my mind. Now, what I would also say is, I don't think that either of those guys, the boyfriend, the married boyfriend, or the business partner, had anything to do with it. It just seems like it's too far to go for an alibi. I mean, really, they wanted to get rid of her for whatever reason, and so they're going to go way out right on this highway and just leave her car there. That's not near where either of them live, and they're going to need a ride, and that means involving someone else and everything. It certainly physically could be done, but I don't think anybody would plan it that way. And on top of that, if they really wanted to make it good, you got to take the gun, you got to take the money, you got to take all those things. Instead, all that stuff was left there. So I don't think that these guys are involved in this. Unfortunately, she was seemingly meeting all sorts of guys. But I would also say it seems unlikely to me that some guy got infatuated with her and followed her the whole way from Flagler Beach to where the car was found. That's hell of a stalking case right there. It seems unlikely. Of course, somebody said lots of people could have wanted her dead if she was doing the stuff with the video. All rumors. Were any cameras actually found in her Atlanta place, in her Flagler place? That's the only way we would be able to determine this. Maybe one of her sisters would know. I don't think that we can just take those things for granted. Who knows the kind of stories that she was spreading? Of course, we also know she was going by a fake name, so she was pretty good at getting people to think she was someone else. But could it be that one of these Johns figured out what her real name was? Maybe. Maybe she was a regular and maybe she got a little lackadaisical around him and actually mentioned her real name, or maybe he found her real ID or something. Possible. I don't know if that explains any of this disappearance, though. And it does seem unlikely if she got picked up by somebody. Would she really take her luggage and get in somebody's vehicle, white truck or not, and leave her dogs there? Seems Eric Alvarado did that. But Eric Alvarado's disappearance is somewhat different. I'm still thinking that he caused his own disappearance because he had mental health issues or something. The stuff being left behind is very contradictory. Cash, but no purse. Gun, but no luggage. Doesn't it seem like it would be the opposite? Somebody who went there would leave the luggage, but take the gun and the money? Was the money maybe hidden or something? Maybe that's the reason. Or maybe it was just in her, maybe it was in her purse. I don't know. That is so contradictory. The dogs are the tough part. Looks like somebody didn't care about them. But could she have been double crossed? Maybe she was planning to leave and had this whole thing schemed. And then when that person picked her up there, person double crossed her, killed her, and left the dogs. Could be. Still doesn't make a lot of, it's still hard to understand some of these items. It's a tough one. There's no easy answer to this. I'm inclined to believe that this was staged. I'm inclined to believe that. It seems she did have things going on, and I don't know how she was going to get out of it. I don't know if she went to Europe, but she had been living like a double life anyway. She was living under, doing her work under a different name. And maybe through all of that, she figured out how to get a new ID and start a new life and get out of it and do something else. But you may say, well, what about the dogs? Well, people get desperate. And it very well may be that, of course, we heard all these things about Eric Alvarado. He loved his dogs, loved his dogs, loved his dogs. He most likely killed himself somewhere and let the dogs go. So we can't get caught up in that. It very well may be that she just thought, I'm just going to let these dogs go free and somebody will get them. And she was kind of right. She was 50% right. So I'm thinking this was staged. I think the nail and the tire, I think that was vandalism after the fact, simply because cars sitting on the sides of roads have these things happen to them because, people are jerks. Kids riding around, see a BMW on the side of the road. It very well could even be that, was the gun just sitting there on the seat, or was it under the seat? Where was the cash? That would better help us better understand. Well, if somebody did come along, of course, the luggage is right there. It's going to be visible. And think, oh man, I got this luggage. Boom, they're gone. And especially if it was like Louis Vuitton or something, real Louis Vuitton. Where would they really think to look under the seat for a gun? Would they really think to look under a seat if that's where the cash was? Especially if they're in a hurry. And you may say, well, the money, well, she wouldn't have done that. Well, I will tell you this. It's more likely that she would leave it behind than a killer would leave it behind. This isn't, we don't have to think in absolutes here. We just have to think in comparatively. Of all of the different people who are most likely to go to that car and take that cash, who do you think's more likely? Her or some vandal? Her or her killer? I would say her killer. Because they're opportunists. I think it was staged. I don't know what that means. I don't know where she is now. But given the location alone, I don't think she was getting stalked or followed or anything. I think that she just found a good spot to. And you have to remember, if somebody really wanted to do something, why leave it right on this? It seems like it was kind of an, urban area. Me burping. That's nice. It was kind of in an urban area. How convenient for her to get away. Whereas if you're stalking her and want to do something to her, there's a lot of empty highway out there between Flagler Beach and Atlanta where you could have gotten her to pull over somehow. I think this was staged. I think she caused her own disappearance. All right, let's move on to Friday's disappearance. Now, what's interesting about this is none of these people are listed anywhere. I came across their disappearances, 3 men and 3 women together on an airplane by accident. But who I'm talking to, if you can understand this, her name is Tracy. There's one of the people went missing, a young woman. Her name was Glennis Bernhard. She was 19. The woman I'm interviewing was once married to Glennis's brother. Unfortunately, Glennis's brother is now deceased. But Tracy was friends with Glennis when they were younger, ended up marrying Glennis's brother, and so for many years. And so she heard all about this disappearance, and in fact knew Glennis, remembers when she went missing and everything else. So I think Tracy has made a great guest. We did that interview today. You will hear her on Friday. But I am going to be dishing out some crazy facts regarding this disappearance. Of course, maybe the most bizarre being 6 people go missing, not on NamUs, not on the Charlie Project. The only way I came across them was by sheer luck. But the weird thing is that this disappearance has a connection to another disappearance that I may or may not cover in the series. And actually, one of the guys who went missing here on March 31st of 1984, he went missing before. I'm going to tell you all about it on Friday. And like I said, the only way to really learn anything about these disappearances, because they're not on NamUs, is to have a newspapers.com account, because it was written about there. But this Friday, Glennis Bernhard and others, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, March 31st, 1984. They were flying from Fort Lauderdale to Bimini on a propeller plane, never made it there. And Tracy, Glennis Bernhard's brother's wife, is the guest. That was a heck of a show tonight, if I may say so myself. So there you go. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you so much. Remember to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel. I would appreciate it. You can support Unfound in a variety of ways. If you know somebody who needs help, tell them to go to missingpersonsconsulting.com. Keep your heads on swivels out there. Do not become a topic on my podcast. Charlie, I don't think you're in here, but say hi to the kids for me. And we will do this all again next Monday night. Good night.